What's going on, everyone? Nick Filato here to break down Florida State edge rusher Jermaine Johnson. The Giants need help at the edge position, and names like Kayvon Thibodeau and Trayvon Walker are linked to New York. Heck, even names like George Karlaftis and David Ajabo. But we don't hear a lot about the Giants being a potential landing spot for Jermaine Johnson. That should change. Johnson went the JUCO route through school and ended up at Georgia for a couple of seasons before transferring to Florida State before the 2021 season. He recorded 70 tackles, 17.5 for a loss, 11.5 sacks, 46 pressures, 37 stops, 2 forced fumbles, and he was the first player in ACC history to earn Offensive or Defensive Player of the Year in their first season with an ACC program. He was excellent at the Combine, great at the Senior Bowl, and he is in top 10 consideration at the moment. Johnson is a very long defender who fires off the snap low with good leverage, burst, and power at the point of attack. He plays with authority and has a variety of ways to disengage and deconstruct blocks. His hands are heavy and constantly moving. He gets to counter moves quickly and is relentless in a phone booth with an exceptional ability to convert speed to power. Johnson has a lot of upside as a pass rusher, and he's already a great run defender with impressive pursuit skills in space, which we'll see in this video. He has sufficient bend, only one real year of production, and his technique could be refined a little bit. Kind of relies a little bit more on physicality than precision, albeit it's not terribly inaccurate. But you can see the violence, the competitive toughness, and the raw power that he does possess. And I really appreciate that on his film. So speaking of his film, let's get to it right now. I want to start by going over just how active Jermaine Johnson's hands are once the snap happens. Here we have him split out wide, kind of a wide 9 type of alignment, and watch how he gets up the arc and just uses that double swipe to just knock down the punch attempt of this offensive tackle, and then watch both of these players' hips right here. It does not look like this tackle is in any position to effectively block Jermaine Johnson, who's already swiveling his hips into the pocket and towards the quarterback. So let's watch it one more time. He comes off the snap, kind of hits him with a stutter to really give the tackle pause. And there's one thing about Jermaine Johnson. Anytime these tackles watch film on him, they know he possesses power elements, which we'll see later, and he has the speed element to beat you outside. So when he hits you with this stutter, as a tackle, you have to either embrace for contact, sit back on your hips, and wait to absorb power, or kick out into space to take away the speed element of Jermaine Johnson. It's just difficult to block players like this who possess such a variety of ways to defeat you. And here he hits the stutter, double swipe, and then look. Hips oriented into the pocket. This tackle is beat. Quarterback does a good job stepping up into the pocket, but then there is a teammate there to sack him. It's a great way to defeat right here. Keep him guessing. Now watch, this is good hand placement right here. He goes for the outside arm punch right there. Both arm punch, really. And Jermaine Johnson uses that inside hand to knock the inside hand down and then just swats that one away. Double swipe. Gets into the pocket. Gets the hurry. Helps his buddy get a sack. Here we have Jermaine Johnson right over here against Wake Forest. Zach Tom is on this side. I felt like Zach Tom did a good job against Jermaine Johnson on this tape, but now he's going up against number 62. I don't know who number 62 is. And Jermaine Johnson wins around the edge, forces the quarterback to kind of step up a little bit and then just evade, but watch how he does it. Again, presses vertical initially, so that's going to get the tackle to open up and expect speed, but then he hits him with that stutter step, puts a lot of weight on that inside foot. So is he going back inside? Tackle is still debating on what the heck is Jermaine Johnson going to do, and watch what that inside foot step does. Jermaine Johnson just puts this tackle into a position where he's not 100% sure. He leans really far back on his butt, thinking he might absorb contact, and yet he has to account for that inside move. Jermaine Johnson was going to go around the edge the entire time, uses another double swipe, and then an arm over. So he makes contact with those arms, and then he brings that inside arm over, and now this tackle can't explode off of this inside foot to get up there. He has all of his weight on that outside foot, because now he's realizing, oh crap, now the guy's going outside. I got to get in that direction, and his inside foot wasn't in a great position to push off of it because he was embracing for the strength element, the power element of Jermaine Johnson. Jermaine Johnson gets around the edge. I feel like the tackle does a solid job recovering. Quarterback steps up, picks up a couple yards with his feet. Now you have Jermaine Johnson over here against the same individual. Hits the same stutter step inside jab move. Uses the same double swipe move. Reduces the surface area of his chest. Tries to get up that pass rushing arc. Beats the tackle. The tackle has to lean. He punches him. He makes contact, solid contact with Jermaine Johnson here. But then Jermaine Johnson brings that inside hand around and then violently chops down on the outside arm of this tackle. Watch. simple. And that's to create separation and not allow this tackle to gain access to his chest while also allowing him to kind of bend through the contact and soften that edge. And I feel like the tackle does a good job there riding him up the pass rushing arc here. But that was Jermaine Johnson's intentions. See an incomplete pass. Now we have Jermaine Johnson over here against Zach Tom. It's just an overthrow. So he's preparing for the run here. You can see he's going to execute his run responsibility once the quarterback goes into the mesh point with the running back. He goes to lockout, uses his length very well, and he keeps a low center of gravity for somebody who's 6'5", which you love to see. But then he realizes, oh, this is not a run, it's a pass. So he grabs with his inside hand right in the breastplate of Zach Tom and just kind of pulls him down and runs right around. Didn't really matter. The pass was off target, and it wasn't really due to the pressure that Jermaine Johnson was or wasn't applying. Here we have Jermaine Johnson right on this side. Uses double swipe twice there to break the contact of 62. You can just kind of see how active the hands are. That's what you love. This one, he goes with the inside jab, but it's more to just kind of explode off of that inside foot so he can get around the tackle, because he might anticipate a run at first with the running back offset here, realizes it's not, and he goes, swats, and breaks the wrist of 62's outside arm, gets up the pass rushing arc, establishes inside hand placement with that inside arm, and then swats again on that outside arm to create that separation. Tackle does a solid job hitting him as Jermaine Johnson's trying to fully disengage. Quarterback throws the ball. Nice play. Johnson's isolated against this tackle who would be on an island because Florida State has to slide to account for all of these potential rushers over here. Johnson hits with the inside foot jab again. You can see how once he does that, this tackle, what does he do? Puts a lot of weight on that back foot there and kind of orients his hips in this direction like he's about to redistribute his weight and account for an inside pass rushing move. But Johnson has those quick feet, those nimble feet, and the ability to use his hands to get and earn the edge, and that's exactly what he does. So a little bit of deception there, inside jam, and then he uses that outside arm again, swats and breaks the contact of the offensive tackle, brings his inside arm over the top, separates, gets a pressure. Quarterback does a good job getting rid of the football. Now we have Jermaine Johnson over here against Miami. Same thing. Inside jab move. He loves to employ this, and look at what it does to the tackle because he has the speed to get inside. He does that throughout his film. But you have this tackle out on an island, and it puts this tackle into a really, really tough spot. You hit that inside jab move, and then watch. Look at the center of gravity of this tackle. It's very, very high. He's a little bit indecisive on where he wants to focus, to be honest, because he's afraid that he's going to go inside. So he's about to open his hips and then just wash Jermaine Johnson down this way. But instead, Jermaine Johnson's going to go outside. He just swats the outside arm away, reduces the surface area, gets his hips swiveled into the pocket, doesn't even have to use too much bend. Johnson, he has some bend, but he's not Von Miller. He's not Robert Quinn. He doesn't have that type of bend. And he gets into the pocket and gets the sack. Let's watch that one more time. I didn't put the sacks in the beginning of the video, so what you can see, hits it, creates a separation. That inside jab move put that tackle into the position to where he had to really account for the B gap there. And ideally, you want to be confident and get into your kick slide and get the depth that is necessary when you're going up against somebody who has the speed of Jermaine Johnson, but that just did not happen here. Here we're going to have Jermaine Johnson coming off the edge. Don't really see him pre-snap. It's just the way the video was shot because he was aligned so wide outside of number 80. And this is why you don't leave tight ends on edge rushers like Jermaine Johnson. This tight end tries to go into block. Jermaine Johnson's like, nah, just get out of here. And then he gets the strip sack along with a buddy. And then we have Jermaine Johnson over here against Boston College. Weight on the inside foot again. This tackle doesn't really buy it. See, this tackle isn't really deterred. He continues up the pass rushing arc the whole time. He prematurely punches, though. He does prematurely punch. Jermaine Johnson goes to swat that down. And then he does a great job dipping that inside shoulder, showing some of the bend that he does have. Dips the inside shoulder, gets hip to hip, wins the half-man relationship, gets into the pocket, and that quarterback has the depth of his set is pretty deep off the play action. Jermaine Johnson makes him pay for that. Somehow the pass is completed. Okay, got Jermaine Johnson over here now. Again, the set passe off the play action is a little deep. Jermaine Johnson's aligned wide. He kind of goes with that inside jab fake a little bit, but maintains the momentum going upwards through the pass rushing arc the entire time. And the tackle punches a little early. Jermaine Johnson keeps his hands active, ready to pounce. The tackle makes contact, but then Jermaine Johnson uses one arm to keep the tackle at bay. Now, one arm is always longer than two arms because when you punch with two arms, as you can see here, he stays square. His shoulders are square, but when you punch with one arm, your shoulders don't have to be square, which makes your chest harder to achieve. And you can see how that's on display right here. Johnson gets that inside arm right inside and then just uses lower body drive to drive the tackle backwards into the pocket to assist his teammates in this sack one more time. Good play by Jermaine Johnson. All right. Here we got Jermaine Johnson over here against number 60. And you can see there the speed to power element. Now, this is what we were referring to a little bit before. He hits the stutter, puts a lot of weight on that inside foot like he usually does, and he realizes he's not going to win the edge, or at least he doesn't want to go for the edge here. So he just lands the inside long arm technique. Look how low his hips are relative to the tackle, and he just drives through the tackle, lifts him up. I mean, that's the kind of like raw power that Jermaine Johnson possesses. He can just do this to 300-pound grown men, at least college kids. Still, look at that. He's driving him back right there. And on that second hop, you can see that this guy's already in trouble. His feet do get tangled up, I want to be fair, with number 55. But you can see the raw pop that someone like Jermaine Johnson possesses right over here. He does it again there. Now, he cuts away a little bit, but you can see he goes with the stutter, Then he says, okay, I'm going to place my outside hand right on that elbow because he punched a little early, get my inside hand on your breastplate, and then just rise your center of gravity. Use my power to rise your center of gravity. I'm going to have lower hips than you, which is always ideal as a pass rusher. So he just rises his center of gravity and then just pushes him back. Now, if this quarterback didn't get rid of the football quickly, this could have been worse, but you know, it ended up being a completion. Here, Jermaine Johnson. He gets pressure on the quarterback here. Again, uses the stutter, realizes he's not going to use the speed to get around the edge, then just hits with a bull rush. Somehow that's caught for a touchdown. I feel you, number 26. 26 seems to make a good play on this ball. He has 10. He has 37 there, and Miami still catches it. That's devastating. Here we got Jermaine over here. Wide. And he spins the tackle around, ends up getting the strip sack, and recovering the fumble, I do believe, as well. Let's see why this happened. So this was one where he goes with the stutter, but he's going outside, and the tackle is just terrible technique with an early punch. Jermaine Johnson, though, takes advantage of the terrible technique by using that inside arm to lift the inside punch. And you can see how the power and the pop lift this tackle's center of gravity. And the running back tries to chip him. Looks like he whiffs a little bit. But in doing so, because of the inside arm raise right there, that spins this tackle around, puts him in a spin cycle, and Jermaine Johnson isn't deterred by the contact from either player if the running back even made contact, and then he gets the sack right there. Not great technique by the Miami tackle, but still you could see how Johnson is using his hands actively and violently to create separation and disengage from blockers. Here we have Jermaine Johnson right here, and this is a wild play. Watch. It's a touch pass to somebody who's probably, 80 pounds less than him. Jermaine Johnson, this is unblocked defender here. You want to leave him unblocked. We saw this with the Giants a bunch of times, specifically early on in the season when they tried to do this with Kadarius Toney, and Kyle Rudolph would leave this defender unblocked because that was the design of the play. I think they tried it against Von Miller, and it just went terribly in week one. But it's very tough to leave a player like Jermaine Johnson unblocked because he's insanely athletic. And although number 12 is a wide receiver, Jermaine Johnson still somehow makes that play. It's a wild play right there, and you'll see it right here from the end zone angle. He reads the play right off the bat. Good processing, good football IQ. First off, he realizes nobody's blocking me right here, so that's a little odd. So let me just keep my eyes on the quarterback, see what's going on with this wide receiver, and then I'm going to pursue. That's a great pursuit right there to make the play. Now we have Jermaine Johnson right over here. You can see there's a couple plays where the offense, Wake Forest, in this example, would run a fast 3 or a fast 2 to this side. So what that means is there's a running back who is in this area, or maybe somebody from the backside. There are already 2 receivers over here. So you have a 1, you have a 2, and then you run this guy. That's going to be a fast 3, and that's going to force the defense, depending on their coverage, to account for him and then change their assignments right before the snap. It's a way to catch the defense off guard, gain a couple yards, get the ball into your playmaker's hands, that kind of thing. But watch how Jermaine Johnson plays this, sees it, gets out there, pursuit, hits number 1 out of bounds. You can see there is a relentlessness there. It's insatiable knack for not giving up on plays. Competitive toughness, if you will. You'll love to see it. Here he is. Bop, 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 and tackle out of bounds. You can see it again here. Similar thing. Now, the tight end who's on that side, they're going to leave Jermaine Johnson unblocked. He is going to kick out to be a lead blocker. Number 0 is going to run into space. This is to the field. You can see they're to the boundary right here on this hash. So there's a ton of space out there. So you just got to beat Jermaine Johnson. And hopefully your other offensive players will make their blocks. You can see how the tackle is going to kick over to account for anybody if they're coming through the A gap. And then we have Jermaine Johnson. Good play right there by number 8 to box him inside. Now, he doesn't make the tackle. It looks like he slips. A lot of people might think that's not that great of a play, but this is a great play. You always want to box him inside to where your pursuing defenders are. And there is a pursuing defender there. And his name is Jermaine Johnson. That is a hit. Here we got Jermaine Johnson against Miami. You can see this is a big 4th down situation. I believe it's a 4th and short. Could have been a 3rd and short, but I remember when I watched this game, you have Jermaine Johnson on the backside. He goes through the B gap here, and this is a boundary play where they were trying to create traffic and man cover, and you get a design touch to this player right here. So you run the slant here. He's going to create traffic. You see how he kind of embraces for contact right there to pick this defender. And this defender's assignment is this player, so that should allow him to pick up the 2 yards that was necessary to keep this drive moving. And the safety is way too far at depth. So solid play call from Miami, but Jermaine Johnson blows it up. Both of these defenders kind of come off, so he's trying to go back inside here. Pick wasn't great, and then Jermaine Johnson finishes the tackle right there, right before the sticks. Okay, now we got Johnson over here. Again, read defender, chases all the way down, and then watch the finishing ability in the tackle there. So we'll go through that one more time. Not too much to break down. He's just a read defender here. Gets his eyes on the mesh point, realizes that he's going around the edge, gets sucked in maybe a little bit too far, but you can see how he chases down, chases down, chases down. Once his teammates put themselves into a position to make a play, then he makes that tackle. So this play, there's not a lot to take away here, but I wanted to just show how strong Jermaine Johnson is when he punches this lineman, and watch how this lineman's center of gravity and just pad level just goes up in the air when he lands this inside arm punch that doesn't even seem like he's really fully engaged in the punch. I just wanted to show that just because I thought it was cool. Now, he has the firm base, and I also wanted to show how he locks out when there's a potential run play. Look, locked out, hips low, wide base, and then once he realizes that it's not coming to his side, it's going to be a cutback, he punches up to create separation, gets his eyes on the ball carrier's path. It's just the strength there, man. He's a strong player. Now we got Jermaine Johnson right over here. Tight end blocking him, crashes the C gap right there. It's not great when you have a tight end attempting to block him, as we said before. Here we got Jermaine Johnson on this side now. And 62 kind of steps to account for number 32 here. And the tight end engages him. Now watch what Jermaine Johnson does. Tight end engages him. Jermaine Johnson gets his hands inside, keeps his hips low. You can see how his eyes are right in the backfield right here. He's looking through trash. He does a really good job looking through trash, looking through traffic, and locating the offensive intentions. He gets that here, and then he controls 85 and crashes right down the line of scrimmage to make the tackle. Here we got Jermaine Johnson right here against Zach Tom. Good tackle prospect who has center experience, could be a center in the NFL. Solid target for the Giants early on day 3. Now, despite being taller than Tom, he's lower than him right now. He's not locking him out, but he's in a good position. It doesn't seem like Tom is controlling him at all. So he sees the B gap become open, so he crashes down into it, which forces him outside to all of these defenders who look like they were accounting for the spill. I will say this about Jermaine Johnson. Similar to Kayvon Thibodeau, there were times on his film where he did this as the contained defender, crashes in the B gap, and there weren't spill defenders, secondary force defenders, whatever the heck you want to call them, outside of him, and that led to probably a larger gain than there necessarily had to be. So that's something that he can work on. It's definitely coachable, though. At least it appears to be. It's more of a tendency than anything else. He understands the continuity of a defense, I'm sure. We got right there. Watch how he goes up against this tight end. Just a hard swat right there. Just swats his outside shoulder downward, gets inside, fights through the block of this other tight end or wide receiver, or whoever that is, crashes down the line of scrimmage, and nobody accounts for his teammate right there. Basically took 2 blockers out of that play. Here we got Jermaine Johnson again against the tight end. Now he sets the edge here. You can see how he expands. This is an outside zone type of play, or just a zone type of play where it's meant to go laterally. Jermaine Johnson playing to the field. So he's the field edge here. It's a big responsibility here. You have to set this edge. So he does, gets his hands inside, locks out, moves laterally, and then forces this running back to cut back inside where there's more teammates, because he's not going to allow him to get around the edge where there are wide receivers stalk blocking a bunch of cornerbacks out there. Allow him to cut back up where all these big guys are and these linebackers are. Jermaine Johnson over here now. Again, using his length and his hands very well. Punches, gets inside. His center of gravity actually rises pretty high on contact, and there wasn't a lot of force behind this, but he's able to resync right there, which I do like to see. So, you see, kind of punches. He rises because he wants to see what the heck is going on back here. Is it a pass? Is it a run? If it is a run, what direction is it going? But he's still able to resync himself while keeping the long arm and the initial punch, that initial stab, on this tackle's chest, and then get his eyes directly on where the running back's going, which is exactly what he does, comes off, and then helps out with the tackle. He's fundamentally sound as a run defender right here. Again, got to set this edge to the field. So, boundaries over here, field is on this side, so you got to set this edge, get depth, and he attempts to do it, does a good job. His tackle initially swats that arm away, but what does he do? Just comes right underneath. Whoop! Let me get my arm right back there, sink my center of gravity. I don't want to concede too much ground, but I'm going to set this edge. I'm not going to let you to go around me. Not going to let that. I'm going to keep this arm relatively free, shade that direction, and then force you to try to go through the most narrow gap possible right here in the B gap. And it just creates a lot of traffic. It gets put down, but I don't really care about that at the end of a play once you fulfill your responsibilities as a run defender. Here we just see good decision making as a defender coming downhill at the mesh point. So I'm just trying to see the continuity of this play in the sense of, is he the force defender? It doesn't look like it, because he gets sucked in pretty far here, and you have 4 defenders and only 3 blockers out here, so someone else can replace him. So I don't believe he was just being overly aggressive here. He was just playing the mesh point, playing this read option really well, and putting this quarterback into a spot where he has to make a decision. Because you have Jermaine Johnson right there. If you hand the football off, then he's done. So he can try and keep it, probably not get too much yardage. Jermaine Johnson does a good job kind of breaking down right there. And the quarterback makes the decision like, hey, that guy's a better athlete than I am, so I'll give the ball to him. Jermaine Johnson just makes the tackle right away. Good instincts there. Here we got Jermaine Johnson live against Boston College. Tackle gets caught leaning, and now it's not great technique by this tackle. He's stepping play side, trying to power step right into Jermaine Johnson. Jermaine Johnson sees this excellent reactionary quickness, sees the lean right there, as we all do. Look, chest over the toes. You don't want, that's not great technique. Tries to lean into the contact. Jermaine Johnson just uses a hard outside hand swat, arm over move to just completely separate and blow up this run play. Here we got Jermaine Johnson on this side. Jermaine Johnson affects the B gap by going around, which isn't always ideal, but watch, he's going to set the edge, then he's going to break the contact right here. Going to just pull that outside shoulder, or that inside shoulder, downward, and then turn a tight corner there. See? Choppy steps, chop, 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 chop. Turn that corner very, very tightly. Not get pushed or washed out of this play, leading to a huge run or anything like that. He has to ensure that he dips that inside shoulder and takes precise steps to close down and make this tackle right there, which he does. Good tackle by Jermaine Johnson. And then the last play right here against number 60. And this I just wanted to put in there because it shows how the hands aren't always precise. You can see how he goes to punch, misses right there. It goes a little high. And then that one also goes high. And now he's in a disadvantageous situation with his pad level high. So he has to concede ground to get pushed back. That's not great. But what I love is the second part of this play. So first we'll go through this again. Now when we watch the second part, the change of direction in space and the ability to account for a ball carrier in space, because that's also important. Because I think Jermaine Johnson has some in-space ability. Now, it's not going to be dropping into crazy coverages, but can he drop into the boundary flat? Yes. And I think he is somebody that the Giants should consider. I have other edges in that area higher than Jermaine Johnson, but he's a good football player. Jermaine Johnson is an option for the New York Giants. Ideally, if they trade back in the first round, but he can even still be an option at number 7. Doesn't mean that they're going to go in that direction, but I do believe he has an intriguing skill set, plays with immense amount of intensity, has very active hands, and is already a very good run defender. Doesn't have too much experience dropping into coverage, about 60 snaps of that in college, but he is a really good athlete. I think all of those things are reasons to consider him in that area. Now, there are plenty of other players that the Giants could go with. They could land Kayvon Thibodeau at 5 and just totally put the Knicks on that discussion. But at the same time, Kayvon Thibodeau could go to the Jets. So there's still a lot to kind of play out here, but I do find Jermaine Johnson to be intriguing, a fun prospect, and somebody who can really work in Wink Martindale's system. Alrighty, everybody, this is Nick Filato here on Big Blue View talking about Jermaine Johnson. Please head on over to the website, download the podcast, just type in Big Blue View. Wherever you get your podcast, head on over to our YouTube, which you're already probably at right now. Hit subscribe, hit comment, hit like, go on over to the website, and also please just have a lovely day, everybody, all right? Take care of yourselves and be well.